After much welcome, the 13th Amendment of the United States was ratified on December 6, 1865, officially ending the slavery. Slavery was an ongoing battle, but once the amendment was ratified, it only took a year to fully enforce. For the Women's Equal Pay Act, signed by President John F. Kennedy on June 10, 1963. After it was published, the law has taken over 50 years to be entirely implemented. Slavery is an important issue that has been revolutionized history, but how can one simple pay law take so much time to accomplish? Women still earn almost 1/4 less pay than men each year. Employers can easily make room to abide this law by proceeding to pay women equally, with increasing advantages for the women, such as providing more income to run a household and help the American economic grow increasingly through time. The pros of equal pay. Women deserve equal pay because every penny counts in running a household, especially single mothers. Females are entitled to the same amount of pay as men, but not only will it benefit the women themselves, but also it will help in turn boost the American economy. The Equal Pay Act, published in 1963, has still not been entirely lived up to. Women not only deserve but also need the same amount of pay as men to live up to the high expectations forced to them by their family and others. So firstly, women deserve equal pay because every penny counts in running a household, especially for single mothers. Single mothers only have one source of income to maintain this good state for themselves and their children. And also, since females earn significantly less than males, they're not able to take good care of their family and themselves. In article, Look the Cities with the Largest Pay Gap by Huffington. It says, in fact, women with a college degree lose $1.2 million in their lifetime due to the main wage gap. Currently, female workers receive $79 for every dollar men earn. So this is the difference between what men and women earn, and despite women getting the same amount of education what men do, they're still not paid the same amount. It's the difference about 25%, where they lose about $1.2 million every year, or throughout their lifetime. Many also argue that men deserve a high salary in comparison to female because women's busy schedule, and some husbands even force the employers to pay women less because they don't want them working the same schedule as you do, because men have a more flexible schedule, because women tend to take care of the families more, and then single mothers are more likely to take care of the children versus working the flexible schedules men do. So, despite being a single mother for two parents, women are more likely to pick up their children from school or anywhere versus men. So the busy or the normal schedules between men and women cannot be the difference why they're paid significantly different compared to what education they get, because the education degrees require same amount of education for both men and women. So there should not be the pay gap difference. So secondly, females are entitled to same amount of pay as men because it won't only benefit women, but it will also boost the American economy. In the article by United States Department of Labor by Women's Bureau, it says if women got paid the full amount they deserve, the gross domestic product will increase by 9%, which means it's not only going to benefit the women themselves, but it's going to it's going to benefit the American economy, and the women take about 52% of the American economy, but some employers state that men can work construction and labor sites more faster and easier than women do, but that cannot be the case because only 1% of the 52% of the women economy work the labor sites, so they cannot be the reason for women to be paid less compared to men. So, lastly, stating the Equal Pay Act published in 1963 has still not been entirely lived up to women. Not only they deserve to be same, but they live up to the expectations. That was that. And then women not only deserve but need to be paid same because they live up to the expectations. And then women are forced. Some employers say that women take up more space and their pay gap doesn't match up to the men's because women don't work as much and they're not able to acquire as many workers. But if the employers state if the women are not capable of men and they're not able to keep the more workers, they should be laying off the employees versus paying women less. Instead, they should have equal amount of men and women working equally. And so, as mentioned earlier, the Women's Equal Pay Act has taken over 50 years to be enforced, and it still has not been implemented at an appreciable level. Other laws written in the United States do not take much time at all to be fully imposed, while this particular women have taken over 50 years. Equal pay must be required in the United States because it's absolutely needed. This issue must come to an end. Time have changed. All women are not housewives, and no matter they deserve the justice for this misdeed, which has been occurring for over 50 years with no punishment. Thank you.
All right, James Davis, what did you think? Not here, okay. Then I'll tell you what I thought. The historical reference at the beginning was an interesting way to make a comparison there. I know what your subject matter is going to be. It sounds to me like it's a persuasive speech rather than an informative presentation, although there are informative elements there. I can see why you would see that this is being justified, given that you see a perceived pay gap here and that there seems to be problems caused as a consequence of that. I didn't really catch a preview. It sounds like there might have been one, but it wasn't very clearly highlighted. When I heard your supporting points in the body of the speech, I think I remembered hearing some of that at the beginning of the speech. So there, like I said, I think it just needed to be a little bit clearer. The discussion of the pay gap and the Equal Pay Act needs to be a little bit more complete. You treat them as if they are equivalent when they may in fact not be. It sounds to me like you were sometimes suggesting that the explanations as to why women are not earning as much as men, which is different than being paid as much as men. There's a question here that you talk about hours that people might work or flexibility or house care issues and those sorts of things. And it sounds to me like you're suggesting that women should be paid more because they do those kinds of things, which would kind of go the opposite direction of the Equal Pay Act, in order to compensate for the time that they're not available to work. I'm not sure if that's the point that you're trying to make there, but it was a little bit confusing. The notion that there's a gap in the wages that women are paid and that men are paid is illustrated pretty clearly with the one graph that you have. Like I said, but there are several places where you had information or at least ideas that you're arguing that were not as clearly supported. For example, there's one section where you suggested that husbands make demands of employers for their wives that is, change your schedule or work less or pay them less. I'm going, I've never heard of such a thing. I don't know why you believe that to be true. I didn't hear any source or reference for that. That seemed a little bit problematic. There were sources and references given in other parts of the speech, especially when it came to the economic impact. If women, closed the gap, if we had a lower gap, that there'd be more economic activity, and that certainly sounds desirable. The first set of slides doesn't really do much except kind of identify what the topic is. The bar graph, like I said, I thought was pretty effective at demonstrating the differences that you're talking about at different education levels or preparation levels as well. The last one seems to come back to the issue of what the different reasons are that people get paid differently. That has nothing to do with whether they're men or women, but each of those little things that they are carrying or holding or hanging over their head or that sort of thing in the cartoon. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different, and that seems to suggest that there might be differences in the jobs that people are doing, and maybe that's the thing that accounts for the pay gap instead of the notion that women are not paid as much as men. This is a more complex issue than I think that we're getting information on. There's way too much reading in the presentation. You're having to read a lot. Like I said, it sounds like a persuasive at the end. And there were a couple of sections where I couldn't quite figure out what you were saying, even though you were presenting what you identify as statistics. So for instance, there's this one section where you talked about the construction sector and what percentage of women were in that sector, and that's not enough to account for some wage differential that's going on. And I didn't know what you were saying. Frankly, it was a statistic that felt a little incomplete, and it wasn't explained how it fits into your argument there. Like I said, I think it's more persuasive in nature than it is informative in nature. All right, thank you. Natalie is going to be our next speaker, and let me see here. Gio is supposed to do the written evaluation, and Kayla is supposed to do the oral evaluation.